Today, though, is kind of a special day. It's a 50th anniversary. So we're here today to talk about a flight of this balloon. And I don't mean a replica. This is the real balloon, 50 years ago today. And I'll tell you, we acquired this balloon not knowing about the story. We acquired the balloon because it was made by the Picard family. And the Picard family was a famous family here in Minnesota after World War II. The parents, Jean and Jeanette Picard, were into the high altitude balloons, the big helium-filled balloons with the pressurized gondola underneath. The Picards here and their relatives in Europe were the first people on Earth to get into the stratosphere in these balloons. And they worked here locally with companies like the Mayo Clinic, which would study the effects on the body, General Mills, and a company we used to call Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing, which of course now is called 3M. And I'm told that the cellophane tape, the first use of cellophane tape was to build and repair these helium balloons. And of course now it's called Scotch tape, and they have many varieties and it's worldwide. But, and they also, if you look at one picture back here, they used to work with the University of Minnesota. You can see one of their balloons launching from the old Memorial Stadium on the University of Minnesota grounds. So that's why we happened to acquire the balloon, is because of this Picard connection. And then my wife Judy, who's our curator and archivist, she was on the internet one day and she stumbled on this really remarkable video that we weren't aware of. And we're going to attempt to, let me back up just a second. Jean and Jeanette's son, Don Picard, who is still around in the Twin Cities, he's in his mid-90s now, I think. He got into making hot air balloons. And so it's his company that made this hot air balloon. And so that's how we found out about this story. And so 50 years ago today at the Minnesota Vikings game, this balloon became famous. And we invite Rick up to make a few comments.
Thank you. This is really kind of fun to see all of this again. And I haven't seen this balloon. I'd like to thank the museum for inviting me out. I got an email from Judy and saying, well, your 50th anniversary of this balloon flight is coming up. And what, really? So I probably would have missed the whole thing if it hadn't been for them and forgotten about it entirely until after the fact sometime. So anyway, I'm really glad that they followed through and set this up, and it's really fun to see this balloon again. We donated it a bunch of years ago, so I haven't seen it in many years, and seeing the display, it's really pretty cool. This is, I think they said, a Don Picard balloon. This was probably an early prototype for the balloons that they ended up making, so it's a much smaller balloon than the balloons in the videos, and they could take 12 people in the basket. This was really a small little balloon, and it didn't have that much lift, which was the reason why I ended up flying in it that day, because we just couldn't get the lift that we needed for this balloon. So, but a lot of this is, the envelope was made by Picard, and the basket was handmade by our family, and my dad made the burner on this, and so, it says experimental, and it was made at a time when, really the ballooning was brand new, and it was a new sport. So my parents were really kind of pioneers in this area a little bit, and sort of brave to do this. But it was really, really super a lot of fun growing up and flying this balloon around. So I don't know if you've got any questions about it. The question was about my parents, and I imagine now, I didn't really probably appreciate it at the time, but now with my own kids, I realize that if something like that happened, it would be just heart-rendering to go through. And so I really kind of feel bad now for my mom going out and chasing this balloon and seeing it go down and take off again and continuing to chase it, and finally seeing it go down again and going out to this farm field to find it, only to find it empty. So I know at the time she must have really been freaking out. So sorry, Mom. You have a question?
Yeah, what was your emotional state as you were going through that? Would you just relate a little bit of what your thought process was?
Yeah, I was 11 years old, so probably didn't know enough to be scared. about all these things, and thinking back on it now, there's a lot to be scared about. But at the time, my parents used to always say, keep a cool head. If you ever get in a tough spot, keep a cool head. So I was literally thinking that as I was going up, stay calm, keep a cool head. And so that's when I didn't really feel scared until I got up into the clouds, I think the video said. Before that, I was looking on the ground and looking around, because I know my parents would be out in the car chasing the balloon, as we've done in the past when we actually fly it. There's a chase car. And so I was looking for the chase car, and I couldn't find it because we had a white station wagon, and all the cars were white because it had snowed, so I couldn't spot the car. I'm looking around for it, and it's like, there's no luck. And then when I went into the cloud, that's when it got kind of scary. I couldn't see the ground anymore, and I just could not understand why the balloon was going up and up and up. And even though I turned the burner off immediately, that's a switch over here. So immediately, before I even left the stadium, the burner was off, but it just kept going up and up and up. So when I got up in the cloud, maybe not a good idea, but I improvised, and I thought, well, I have to let some of the hot air out of the balloon. It's just overheated. And so the balloon actually has a deflation mechanism, and it's by this miracle substance material that they had just invented called Velcro. And so it's brand new at the time, and no one had ever seen it before. And so, but these panels one of the panels is held together by Velcro. And so normally what happens when you land, then it comes down, you pull a cord, and it rips open the panel, and all the air goes out and deflates immediately. So I decided that I would open that just a little bit. And once it's open, you can't reseal it. And I didn't know if I would continue to keep opening or not, but so I opened it just a little bit, and it let enough air out that started to descend again. And so that's set me in my trajectory downwards, and it started to go to the river then at that point in time, and that's how I ended up in the river, because it was just coming down kind of fast by that point in time. So lots of things could have gone wrong, and luckily, happy ending to the story here.
Is there any way you could have reignited it, or?
I did, yeah. I did. I turned off the burner immediately, but it still kept going up, and so it had a little tiny pilot that was still going. I thought, well, could that be doing it? So I actually turned off the pilot too, and probably didn't need to do that. But so then when I was coming down, I was trying to relight the whole thing and get the burner again, and I was able to, give it a little bit of heat. But by that point in time, it was too late to avoid the river.
How far did the balloon go then?
I don't know.
And was it damaged?
No, nothing was damaged. I think my flight probably only went 3 or 4 miles maybe, and then it took off again, and I think it ended up in Burnsville somewhere. So I don't know how far away that is, but by the Black Dog plant somewhere.
Were you ejected then from the balloon from the impact?
Yeah. Yeah. So the balloon is it's not fixed. It just held up by these cables. The basket connecting to the burner, and then there's other cables that went up to the balloon itself. And so it was all very loose. And so when I hit the water, it was just thrown forward and thrown out of the basket and into the river.
Probably cushioned the impact with the water.
Yeah, so,
That's
yeah.
probably a blessing.
Mm-hmm. But the balloon took off again immediately as soon as I was out.
Holy Christ.
You talking the Minnesota River?
Yes, it was the Minnesota River.
Okay, so that's you got a lot of motion and a lot of current and stuff. What did you find there?
It really wasn't, I didn't find a big current then. It was semi-frozen. It was kind of like slush. And so I was swimming through slush.
Wow.
How difficult was it to swim with all that clothing and boots on?
It was very difficult. And I had the helmet on, just like in the model here. And that has styrofoam in it, and so that held my head up. And I was able to kind of get on my back and sort of paddle over, and even I had my big boots on, and so I don't know how I made it over really, but it was a very slow process, and by the time I got there, I was to the shore, I was pretty exhausted. And then trying to stand up waterlogged, and that's where you, I think, see the picture there of me trying to stand up in that slushy water. It was difficult. Yeah.
I'm just intrigued by the fact that you figured all this out and you survived, and I'm glad you did, but were you inquisitive kid growing up, or did your parents actually teach you a lot about the balloon mechanism?
Yeah, this was not my first time in the balloon, so I was probably one of the more experienced 11-year-old ballooners. There were any others, I don't know. So we've gone up a lot, but it was just on the rope. You have to be licensed to free fly, and so, but you don't have to have a license back then to go up on the rope. And so we did that a lot, and so I was up on that a lot. So I knew kind of how to operate the balloon mechanism itself, but never had free flown before.
Rick, did the FAA investigate?
Yeah, there was, and I didn't find out about this until afterwards. And so, so it's right next to the airport, the old stadium, Met Stadium, and so they actually sort of closed down flights in and out of the airport while the balloon was on the loose, and so the FAA wasn't very happy about that. And so there was actually some civil penalty proceeding that they had commenced against my parents, but they got out of that. They explained it was all an accident, and but there's big thick federal regulations on everything, and so I think they were charged with something about a rule about mooring balloons, and you had to have an immediate deflation device. So they got charged with not having an immediate deflation device, which is kind of crazy, really, because in a balloon, you don't want to have it immediately deflate. That'd be a bad thing. So I think they finally talked some sense into the FAA on that one.
Did they get another balloon after that? Did they keep flying?
Yeah, we had another balloon, and so it was a slightly bigger balloon. So it was a 2-person balloon, although it was really still one.
Deflation.
Yeah. And the newer balloon we had actually had a vent on it, so you don't have to try to open up the top of it to let hot air out. It had a side vent on it, so it actually, the ones they have now are really, very easy to maneuver and to move up and down, because the air currents are at different directions, up and down. That's how they navigate now. But this one didn't have any of that. This one's just up you're going with the wind, whichever the way the wind's going.
I missed the first part of the story, what you were doing there, and if you were there for a promo, and was it supposed to just go up on a rope and sit there, or how you got loose and all that stuff? So.
Yeah, so it was a promo. It was for the St. Paul Winter Carnival, and so the halftime show of the Vikings game was all about the St. Paul Winter Carnival. So they had, I remember there were snowmobiles. They had a snowmobile race back then. So there were snowmobiles racing around the field during this, and then they had the Vulcans and all that kind of stuff, doing the bouncing thing with the girl, the trampoline thing. And so they had all this sort of things going on, and the hot air balloon race was a part of the St. Paul Winter Carnival back then. So it was out on White Bear Lake. I think they took off, and there could be a race. So that was what they were promoting. And so we were there to put up the balloon, and supposed to go up, put it up, take it down, go to the sideline, and watch the second half of the game. But I missed that.
What happened, and the rope came loose, or what?
Well, I never really got a good answer on that. The rope broke apparently, but I don't quite understand that still, how that happened, but it happened.
Was it just one rope?
Yeah, it was one rope, and
Larry and I are both commercial LTA rated pilots, and he might have been one of the innovators of making sure on the tether you had a 3 or 4 point.
yeah, I think that might have been it.
Yeah, at least 3 point tie-offs.
And it wasn't nylon rope either. It was kind of just a
Cord.
yeah. It was just like an old-fashioned rope.
Wow.
How did your parents know you were back at the stadium?
Yeah, so after they chased down and found the balloon, and must have been freaking out. I think we had a CB radio in the car. So back in those days, it's late 60s, 70s, so CB radios were around. So I think they got a message through a CB radio that had been found and taken back to the stadium. So they went racing back to the stadium.
Wow.
Rick, did you keep in touch with the photographer who took that great picture?
No, I did not. So I don't know if he's still around or not.
Are your folks still around?
No, they both passed now.
So what was your career path after this?
Well, aviation wasn't part of it, although I did still continue to fly from time to time. So I ended up going to law school and I became a lawyer. So
Okay.
that's what I am now. I'll tell you though, 50-year anniversary, that sure can make you feel old.
Where was the farthest away letter from that you got?
I don't know. They were coming from, I think we got some foreign country ones too, but yeah, it was just bizarre. It was just fun in the mail. It would just be some letter like that, how it got to me, back in the day, I guess the post office took more effort to try to find it.
How was this written up in newspapers at the time?
Yeah, there was a lot of newspapers. So this was big news here. So it was front page, St. Paul and Minneapolis papers, 1A above the fold.
We have some of them here.
Yeah, there's a couple here. Yeah, and then people were sending me articles, from papers around the country about it too. These people clipping the articles and sending them to me. So it's really fun.
I'd love to see you scratch them.
Yeah.
One last thing, we were in contact with the Minnesota Vikings, and they sent over a little certificate of recognition awarded to Rick Snyder in recognition of the 50th anniversary of his participation in the runaway balloon on December 14, 1969 at halftime during the Minnesota Vikings versus the San Francisco 49ers football game at Memorial Stadium, given this 14th day of December 2019. So we'd like to present that to Rick.